Hi, I'm WELS President Mark Schrader. Generations ago, when churchgoers went to worship on foot or on horseback, it was important for there to be a large number of churches in a relatively small area. Today, times are changing, and so is the need for WELS churches to be located very close to one another.
With snow-covered steps, this old church building that lacks a sign hasn't been used for worship for a number of years.
Our membership was getting older and older, and our Sunday school was dwindling.
As a third-generation member of this former WELS congregation, known as St. John's, Lon Heisey didn't want to see his lifelong church home close.
I was just didn't want to let go, like a lot of people. You don't want to let go of those memories. You don't know what the future is.
St. John's and another area church both had pastoral vacancies for 2 years. The pastor of a third nearby WELS church served either as the pastor or vacancy pastor for all 3 churches during that time.
He said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who is dipping with me in the dish."
We approached them about merging, started that process. And one of the things I really learned early on in that was that it wasn't just deep-seated emotions in the conversation, but there was a lot of, deep faith that was involved as well. They looked at their church, and that was their physical connection to God in many ways. This is the church where they were baptized, where their children were baptized, where they were confirmed, where their children were confirmed.
These 3 churches within a 6-mile radius from each other merged into a single ministry. Mergers like this aren't just happening in these old country churches, but also in hustling and bustling metropolitan areas, where these 3 Milwaukee area congregations are within 2 miles from each other.
We just found that although there was a level of cooperation already, there was, a little bit of competition too. And from a ministry standpoint, how can we be most efficient in our area to deliver the gospel message to the people in the West Dallas area? And we determined that it would be better together as opposed to better separately to do that.
Unified under a new name, Living Hope, their schools will also be merging into one.
I think it gives us a lot more options. Some people always have a little bit of a negative connotation with a small WELS school. Like you can't offer as much because it's smaller. Now we're going to a single grade per class. We have a lot more options, and it gives us an area, a larger area, so we're not kind of fighting ourselves.
Their short-term plan is to have all church operations at one site and the school at another. Their next step is to unify onto a single campus.
I think the biggest challenge when you have healthy congregations is to convince the congregations that you can do things better together. Why do we need to do this? That was probably the biggest question we had to answer as it led up to the vote, is why are we better together? And we really had to put a good plan together for that, and I think we did.
Even though the St. John's and Zion Church buildings have closed, that does not mean it's a loss for Christ's work in that area. In fact, the merger is allowing more gospel ministry to happen.
And now we're working towards calling a second pastor, and how much more we can do having 2 pastors in one place rather than having 2 pastors in 2 places.
Having 2 pastors will allow them to better share the good news of Jesus in the newest aspect of their ministry, an early childhood center for infants through 5-year-olds.
All right, let's see. What were we talking about today?
I think it got people a little bit more fired up and excited because it wasn't like, oh, I'm adding into this, or oh, I guess it's somebody else's ministry aspect. But it was all new, so then able to just bring in new people and different volunteers.
For me, it's a building. It's not a church. It's just a building. The church is the people.
It's not the more congregations we have, the healthier we are, but it's the more gospel ministry we do is what gives Christ glory. So if we can do more ministry even with fewer congregations, that's perfectly fine. So congregational consolidation is a good option for many moving forward.
We're thankful that God allows us to play a role in his gospel-sharing efforts. May he continue to allow us to serve his kingdom in a God-pleasing way as he builds his church.